Greetings everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If you are new to this channel, I am Advocate Budle Matsilo. The purpose of this YouTube channel is to teach South African law and to teach or preach the Word of God. If you have been part of this journey, I want to thank you very much for subscribing, for commenting, and even for sharing. If you are new, please feel free to do the same. My topic for today is the law on constructive dismissal. I will start by defining the concept constructive dismissal, and secondly, I will tell you how to prepare for the situation, and thirdly, we will look at what to prove or the factors that will be considered when you raise this issue of constructive dismissal. And I will start by asking you the following questions. Are you bullied at work? Are you ill-treated at work? Do you have a boss from hell? Are you victimized? Are you treated unfairly? Are you marginalized? If you are able to answer yes to any of these questions, then please listen carefully. As far as I know, there are so many people who are going through abuse in the workplace. And people just hang in there because they have no option. Because you have to provide. That is why economic freedom is very important. You have no option but just to keep on going to that abusive environment. Because you have to provide. And you can imagine this is a place where you spend 8 hours of your 5 days in a week out of 7. Well, I've been reading through the media that there's a possibility that very soon South Africa will have a 4-day week instead of 5 days. Well, anyway, that is not yet confirmed. But now let's look at the meaning. What is constructive dismissal? Constructive dismissal is when your employer forces you out of your job. By the employer here, obviously, it's what is called your boss, because your boss represents the employer. I'm not talking about people on your level or people junior to you. No, I'm talking about your boss, because it is your boss who represents the employer. So this person is making the work environment intolerable for you. Sometimes we can say they are managing you out. They want you out. They're trying to push you out. And you can see. Sometimes intentionally, he's just doing ABC so that you can resign. Or sometimes it's a situation that is unbearable for you. You know that, you know what, I can't cope with this environment where I'm marginalized, where I am ill-treated. I'm the most hardworking person. Nobody appreciates me. If I do this, it's wrong. I don't know what else to do any longer. They are managing you out. They make your life at work a living hell. And you know that, you know what, very soon I may have no option but to resign. Because the work environment is intolerable. I speak daily, or let me not maybe exaggerate by saying daily, but I speak to a lot of people who are working in environments that are intolerable. What do you do? The first step is to begin to prepare, because When it reaches a stage where you are no longer able to tolerate this intolerable work environment, you may have to resign. And clearly it will not be voluntarily. It will be because you are managed out. So in the process of that, what is it that you must do? The first thing is to begin to prepare yourself by keeping a record of events. For example, when you communicate with this person, I would opt for an email. Send an email so that if he lies and say, I gave you this instruction, you must say, but no, that's not what you said. This is what you said, because there is an email. Begin to print out your response, his communication to you. Some people will even go to an extent of saying, keep 2 diaries. Keep a diary at home where you record what is happening at work. Begin to print out your emails. Begin to collect evidence that you will later produce at a legal forum to say, you know what, I have no option but to resign because of the following circumstances. If possible, maybe you may have to negotiate a golden handshake. That's how people part ways sometimes when they are in that situation. Because you may need to have a very strong case. Constructive dismissal, it's one of the things that may be a little bit tricky or difficult to prove. Now, what are the factors that will be considered when you allege constructive dismissal? Because ultimately, we can only talk about constructive dismissal once you have resigned and once you have lodged your application with CCMA, which is a Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration. Once you have lodged that complaint, is then that we can talk about constructive dismissal. You must have been forced to resign because of the circumstances. Or let me put it this way, the circumstances, the intolerable circumstances must have forced you to resign. You were left with no option but to resign. And this is something that you must prove. And we can only talk about constructive dismissal because you have lodged a case with CCMA. And once your case has been lodged with CCMA, Commission for Conciliation, Mediation, and Arbitration, what are the factors that will be considered? Number one, you must state that you ended the relationship. In other words, you have resigned. And this relationship must be ended in writing. Therefore, there must be a resignation letter. And it is not necessary that you terminated the employment with a notice. So the termination may be with or without a notice. Number two, you must be able to prove that the employer made continued employment intolerable. There should be no motive. You know, like somebody can say, look for another job somewhere and say, okay, maybe I'm left with one year here, or I'm left with 2 years here. So I'm going to apply somewhere and then claim constructive dismissal, knowing that you may be paid for constructive dismissal. So does it mean that now you're going to end up with a salary here and a salary there? No, there should be no ulterior motive. However, it does not mean that I'm saying you shouldn't be looking for another job. You can look for another job, but you should be able to prove there is no ulterior motive. Thirdly, you have to prove that continued employment was indeed intolerable. And the test that will be used here is an objective test. Because what is intolerable for one person may not be intolerable for another. So that is why they used an objective test, which is a reasonable man test. Will a reasonable man, under these circumstances that you are outlining to this forum, would he have resigned? Or is it only you, or maybe you are just a little bit insensitive? So that is why they are using the objective test. You must also be able to prove that there was no other alternative but to resign. You must have lodged a grievance at one stage. Though this one, it's not peremptory, it's not a must that you should have. But I think it's better if at one stage you would have jotted down a grievance to say, I have a problem with ABC. So at least there you will have enough proof. Not that if you didn't lodge, there will be no enough proof. So these are the things that you'll have to do. Number one, I said you must be managed out, you must be pushed out. You must be able to prove that continued employment, it's not possible because the working environment is intolerable. You must be able to collect evidence before you move, before you resign. The factors or the reasons that you are raising as circumstances that led to your forced resignation must pass the reasonable man test. And then, finally, once you have resigned, you must know that until such time you lodge your case with CCMA, it will only be considered as a resignation, just like any other resignation, until such time you approach CCMA. If you don't approach CCMA, we'll just take it, so-and-so has resigned and she's moved to another place or she is at home. There is a form that if you go to the CCMA site, you can download and use it to file your application. It is one of the forms there, which is called Form 7.11. You will find it in the CCMA website. That is all what I can say for now. I hope you find this helpful, because the idea is to just let you know that you can't always go through that unbearable situation, because I know most people, they will just go through that and resign and then stay home and resign and move to another job. You must know that when you're in that situation, there is legal recourse. And please, make it a point that you collect that evidence. You have all your documents in order, because you must remember, once you leave, then you can't go back to say, hey, I need evidence. It was in probably your last day on duty, they disconnect your email or whatever. So that is why it's important that you begin to collect that information, put it at home now. If you communicate, preferably use email instead of WhatsApp. WhatsApp, you may lose your phone and it may be difficult for you to access that communication that you had with him. But documentary proof is very important. I know this was brief, but I hope you find it helpful. Please know your rights. Please exercise your rights. Thank you very much. Please subscribe, please comment, and please share. God bless you.